Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, we have started essay writing. Fine. So, in the previous classes, we discussed certain topics related to essay writing, like we talked about paragraph structure and paragraph writing. Fine. We talked about topic sentence, how to write a topic sentence. Okay. Then we talked about the structure of essay in the previous class, if you remember, and we also talked about developing a thesis statement in detail. Fine, we took into consideration so many examples. Today we are going to talk about transitional signals, fine, or linking devices, transitional devices, linking devices, transitional signals, or linking worlds. You may refer to this thing with so many names. Fine. Now, what is meant by transitional signals or transitional devices are words or phrases that help carry a thought from one sentence to another, from one idea to another, from one paragraph to another. Fine. Simply you may say that transitional signals or transitional devices are those words or those phrases which link one sentence to another, one idea to another, and one paragraph to another. Fine. This is what we call a transitional signal or a transitional device. Fine. So transitional devices link sentences and paragraphs together smoothly so that there are no abrupt jumps or breaks between ideas. Sometimes people write paragraphs and essays without making an effective use of transitional devices. Then what happens when we are reading their essays or their writing? Fine. The same is the case with these papers of the students as well. When they attempt questions in examination hall, fine, so they do not make transitional signals appropriately. Fine. And then it happens that, like, there is, there are abrupt jumps. Fine. There are abrupt breaks between ideas. Like they are, for example, like they are writing one idea. When they are done with that idea, so they move to another idea, but that transition from one idea to the next, the transition from one sentence to the next, or the transition from one paragraph to the next, that transition is not smooth. Fine. So there is an apparent, a sort of jump, or a sort of, uh, a kind of unnatural break between the ideas. So when people do not use transitional devices, then this happens. Okay. So it's very important for students to learn transitional devices and to use them appropriately while writing essays, paragraphs, or any kind of academic writing. Okay. Now, why do we use transitional devices? Because they provide more information. Okay. Transitional devices are used to provide an example, to provide a cause or reason, to provide a result or an effect. Okay. To provide a purpose or reason, to provide a comparison or contrast, to provide a sequence, to provide a summary, to provide a conclusion in writing. Fine. Now, how do we provide more information? Is examples. How do we provide cause and reason, or purpose or reason? How do we provide a result or an effect? Fine. Or comparison and contrast, sequence and summary and conclusion? How do we provide these things in our essays, in our writing? Fine. It is done with the help of transitional devices. So let's talk about all these points, that how are all these things provided in writing with the help of transitional devices. Fine. But before that, let's consider an example. Eliminating computer viruses are on your computer is not very difficult. There are a few things you can do. Turn on Windows Firewall. To do this, go to the control panel, click on Windows Firewall, and window pops up. You should click on the button next to turn firewall on. Okay. Download a good antivirus program like Kaspersky, Norton, or Avast virus. Okay. Make sure you shut down all programs, disconnect from the internet. Some viruses can deliberately interfere with antivirus programs by getting help from the internet. Now, if you can see, there is no transition, no smooth transition from one idea to the next, okay, from one sentence to the next. All these sentences, all these ideas, they are they've been written very abruptly, like there are abrupt jumps from one idea to the next, from one sentence to the next, okay. On the other hand, if we look at this example, okay, the second version of the very same paragraph, fine, eliminating viruses on your computer is not very difficult. There are few things you need to do, okay. First, turn on Windows firewall. To do so, go to the control panel and click on Windows firewall, okay. When the window when the window pops up, you should click on the button next to turn firewall on. Next, download a good antivirus program like Kaspersky, Norton, or Avast. Before you turn it, make sure. Now look at this, and also, because now when when the scan is finished, but before you delete any files, for example, if you look at these transition signals, they facilitate the reader, fine. They actually assure a smooth transition from one sentence to the next, a smooth transition from one idea to the next, okay. So that is why transitional signals, transitional devices, they are a must to be used in academic writing, fine. Another example, students who write academic essays need to provide effective transitions. Transitions allow writers to connect the main ideas that are present in an essay by using conjunctive adverbs and other introductory elements. Allow a writer to connect one sentence to the next. Okay, it is also a kind of transition signal. Okay, the use of those words will make the writing more fluent and less choppy. Many students fail to use effective transitions, and the essay comes across as disconnected. Fine. Writers should always be aware of the need to connect both sentences and paragraphs together. Now, the ideas, there are abrupt jumps from one sentence to the next, from one idea to the next. On the other hand, if you look at this one, uh, students who write academic essays need to provide effective transitions. Transitions allow writers to connect the main ideas that are present in their essay. For example, okay, now if we look at this, it is a smooth transition from this sentence to that one. Okay, for example, by using conjunctive verbs and other introductory elements, a writer can connect one sentence to the next. Moreover, now again, there is a smooth transition from one sentence to the next with the help of this transitional device, moreover. Fine. Unfortunately, students often fail to use effective transitions, and as a result, the essay comes across as disconnected. To avoid this, now if we look at these, the phrases I have written in bold font, okay, which are explicitly visible. Fine. Now these phrases, these transitional signals actually help us to move to make a transition from one sentence to the next, a very smooth transition. Okay, look at another example. I like autumn. Autumn is a sad time of the year. The leaves turn to brilliant yellow and red. Okay, the weather is mild. Now there is no transitional signal used in this paragraph, okay, and that is why, like, I like autumn. Autumn is a sad time of the year. The leaves turn to the leaves turn to brilliant yellow and red. Now there is no smooth transition from this sentence to this one, and then from the second one to the third, and from the third to the fourth. There is no smooth transition. Fine. Now how to make this transition smooth? Obviously by the use of transitional devices. Okay, although I like autumn, it is a set time of the year. Fine. Of course, the leaves turn to brilliant yellow and red, and the weather is mild. Still, I can't help thinking ahead to the coming of winter. Like, simply the focus is on these transitional signals. Okay, if we look at this, uh, of course, so again, like, there is a transition from this sentence to the next one, and that transition is made smooth by this transition signal. Okay, similarly, leaves turn to brilliant yellow and red, and so this and connects these two sentences in the transition from one sentence to the next and from one idea to the next. That is very smooth. Similarly, moreover in winter, so because I find, okay, truly, so this is how transition signals are very useful, and they must be used in academic writing by students. Fine. um, Now let's talk about it. How can we, provide more information with the help of transition signals? What sort of transition signals are used to introduce an example? What sort of transitional signals are used to, provide a cause or reason? So let's talk about all these things one by one in detail. Fine. Now, those transitional devices which are used for introducing more information. So when we write something and we want to provide more information, we may say besides, okay? We may say furthermore, we may say in addition, indeed, in fact, moreover, apart from this, second, third. Now, furthermore, in addition, moreover, apart from this, these are the signals which we discussed in the previous examples. Okay, then transitions devices which are used for providing examples. So we may say, for example, for instance, in particularly, specifically, to demonstrate, to illustrate, and then we may, state the examples which we want to provide. Okay, uh, transitional devices which are used to provide a cause or a reason is fine, because it is like this and like that, that is why. So this is, the cause and effect. Because of this it happened. Okay, due to uh, the outbreak of COVID-19, the university may remain close till December. Okay, so due to that is, a cause or reason of something. For I'm doing it for this, okay, for the reason that, you may state the reason, since it is like this and that, so that is why. Fine. So these are, the transitional devices which are used for providing reasons and for providing causes. Then transition signals for providing results or effects. Okay, so accordingly, okay, finally, consequently, or is a consequence. Fine. Hence, so, therefore, thus, as a result, resultantly. Fine. As an effect, you may use so many others as well. Then transitional signals which are used for providing a purpose or a reason, for fear that, listen, that will happen, that is why I did that. Okay, in the hope that, in order to, fine, so that make the use of transitional signals effectively, so that your essay may seem very effective. Okay, with this in mind, clear? So these are the various transitional devices with the help of which we may provide purposes, or with the help of which we may provide reasons. Okay, then transitional devices used for comparison and contrast, although it is like this and that, but still I like it. Fine, just as we discussed an example in one of the examples above. Fine. Although, okay, although I like autumn, it is. So this is how comparison in contrast. Fine. However, in comparison to this, in contrast, likewise, nevertheless, on the other hand, similarly, whereas, yet, These are the various transitional devices which are used for providing comparison and contrast. Fine. Then there are certain transitional devices which are used for providing sequence, okay, order, after, before, currently, during, eventually, finally, first, second, formally, immediately, initially, lastly, later, meanwhile, next, previously, simultaneously, soon, subsequently, or at the same time. Fine. These are the various transitional devices with the help of which we provide sequence. Okay, we bring sequence in our ideas. Fine, in our sentences. Then there are transitional devices which are used to indicate location or space. So in the middle of the two houses. Fine. To the left or to the right of the house, in front of the house, on this side of the house, in the distance, here and there, in the foreground, in the background. Fine. Like uh, in the foreground of the picture, or in the foreground of my house, in the background of my house. Fine. In the center of, adjacent to. Adjacent means very close to. Fine. Close to, adjacent to, instead of adjacent to, you may say next to. Fine. Opposite to, here, there, next, where, from, over, near, above, below, down, and up. Fine. Beyond, nearby, wherever, around. There is a garage around the corner, for example, or there is a shop around the corner. Okay. Between, before, alongside, amid, beneath, beside, behind, across. Okay. So these are the transitional devices with the help of which we indicate location or space. Okay. Then transitional devices which are used for providing summary, like briefly. In brief, we may say that overall, summing up, to put it briefly, to sum up, to summarize. Fine. So these are the devices used for providing a summary, usually at the end of a paragraph. Okay. Then we have the last one, which is for providing conclusion. So given these facts, we may say that, okay, hence it can be said that, in conclusion, we may say that, so it can be said, thus it can be said that. Okay. To conclude, we may say that, therefore it can be said that. So it can be said that is not a must. We may use certain other phrases as well, but these are the phrases which are used to indicate the conclusion. Okay. To provide the conclusion. So these are the various transition signals, transition devices, linking devices, which students must use in their writing to make a smooth transition from one sentence to the next, from one idea to the next, from one paragraph to another. Clear? So while writing your essays, the assignments which I have assigned to you, okay, you must make the use of such sort of transitional signals in your essay writing. Clear? Today's session was a very short session because the topic was short. Fine. uh, in the next lecture, in the coming class, we may start discussing tenses, or yes, the next lecture will be on punctuation marks. Fine. So in the coming class, inshallah, we'll talk about punctuation marks in detail. Stay home and stay safe. Allah Hafiz.